Whoa, stop right there. If you are part of the vanishingly small number of people who like to skip my wonderful, ever insightful, and not at all rambling introductions, then today is not the day to do so. Last weekend, I made a video ranking every £50 million plus Premier League signing, and in the introduction, I stated that it was ranked upon how good a signing I thought each player either was or will prove to be, and was not based upon how talented they are or were, or how well they played last season. Now, since a few people skipped the intro, I think that led to some confusion, but hopefully that won't be the case today. Since today's video is ranking every £50 million plus Premier League sale, I want to make it clear that I am ranking the transfers based upon how well they turned out from the perspective of the selling club, not the buying club. To give a non-£50 million plus example, the sale of Eric Cantona by Leeds United in 1992 would be a bad one since they didn't get much money for a very good player who ended up significantly strengthening a title rival. In contrast, Everton selling Francis Jeffers to Arsenal for £8 million in 2001 turned out very well for them since Jeffers was rubbish at Highbury and they ended up better off without him. Hopefully this is all clear. Nonetheless, it is still my opinion of course, and I welcome healthy debate and disagreement. It's just a lot easier when we can debate upon the same criteria. As with last time out, only transfers which cost in excess of £50 million up front, not subject to any add-ons, will feature. There have only been 12 Premier League sales worth over £50 million, which includes 2 transfers for the same player, so a bonus point for guessing who that is before I begin. Right, here is how I would rank every £50 million plus Premier League sale from worst to best from the perspective of the selling club. Luis Suarez. Getting us started as the worst £50 million plus Premier League sale in my humble opinion, it is Luis Suarez's 2014 transfer to Barcelona. Of course, as with a number of transfers in this video, Liverpool didn't really have much choice but to sell Suarez as the player himself angled for a move, but nonetheless, it is still possible to assess how that transfer worked out from the club's perspective. Suarez's last 2 seasons at Liverpool, and particularly his final one, were absolutely spectacular. He scored 31 goals in 33 games as Liverpool narrowly missed out on a Premier League title, having only just managed to hang on to it in the previous season. A departure from Anfield always seemed inevitable in 2014. Barcelona, with the Uruguayan's new suitors, signing Suarez for £65 million, which is of course a fortune, but it made him £21 million cheaper than Gareth Bale in 2013, and only £2 million more expensive than James Rodriguez during that same summer. For that price, Barcelona had signed at that time the best centre-forward on earth, and Suarez has since scored a sensational 197 goals in 282 games at the Camp Nou. He was replaced by the likes of Ricky Lambert and Mario Balotelli as Liverpool slipped from title contenders to not even coming close to Champions League qualification. Cristiano Ronaldo. As with Liverpool and Luis Suarez in 2014, Manchester United had little choice but to sell Cristiano Ronaldo in 2009. Just as had been the case with Suarez, Manchester United had convinced Ronaldo to stay for one more season, and there were never any doubts about whether he would leave or where he would go in the summer of 2009. In his last 3 seasons at Old Trafford, Ronaldo had already become one of the best footballers on earth, scoring 42 goals in 49 games in his penultimate season and winning the Ballon d'Or in 2008. As a result, he commanded a then world record fee of £80 million, but even at that price, he proved to be an absolute bargain for Real Madrid. Across 9 seasons at the Bernabeu, Ronaldo cemented his status as one of the best footballers to have ever lived, scoring 450 goals in 438 games and winning a further 4 Champions League titles. What's more, when Real came to selling a 33-year-old Ronaldo, they did so for a profit, receiving £88 million from Juventus. Manchester United brought in Michael Owen, Antonio Valencia and Gabriel Obertan the summer in which Ronaldo departed, missing out on the Premier League title to Chelsea the following season. Unlike with Suarez, this sale didn't stop Manchester United from being a force, but it's hard to believe they wouldn't have won the Champions League since 2008 had they somehow managed to keep hold of Ronaldo. Gareth Bale. Gareth Bale's transfer from Tottenham to Real Madrid is a slightly unusual one to assess from the perspective of both clubs. Bale commanded an enormous £86 million fee in 2013, the largest ever seen at that time, but he too played a pivotal role in 3 Champions League triumphs. Clearly, however, Bale has not had anything like the impact that Ronaldo has had in Madrid, plagued by injuries and conflict, particularly over the last 2 seasons. We're looking at this from the selling club's perspective though, and in 2013, Tottenham lost by far their best player in exchange for a large cash windfall. They ended up spending more than £86 million that summer on just Eric Lamela, Roberto Soldado, Paulinho, Etienne Capoue and Vlad Chiriches alone. Of all the Bale money that Tottenham reinvested, only Christian Eriksen turned out to be a smart piece of business, and even he couldn't carry Spurs like Bale. Tottenham dropped from 5th to 6th following the move, with Andre Villas-Boas losing his job the following season. Romelu Lukaku. When Everton signed Romelu Lukaku for a club record £28 million in 2014, they knew exactly what they were getting, having already had the Belgian on loan at Goodison for 12 months. He turned out to be the goal machine that they had hoped for, and only Harry Kane scored more Premier League goals than him in his final season on Merseyside. That meant Manchester United had to pay £75 million up front, plus a potential £15 million in add-ons in order to acquire Lukaku's services. Meanwhile, Wayne Rooney headed in the opposite direction. I think Everton got a decent fee for Lukaku, but they failed to replace him, and arguably still haven't 3 years on. Everton went from scoring 62 goals and winning 61 points with Lukaku to scoring just 44 goals and only winning 49 points without him. Everton spent the entire fee that they received for Lukaku, and then some, on the likes of Davy Klaassen, Jordan Pickford, Cenk Tosun and Gylfi Sigurdsson, which wasn't great business by the Toffees, to put it mildly. Virgil van Dijk. Another transfer in which the selling team was powerless in preventing a departure. When Southampton tried to keep hold of Virgil van Dijk, the Dutchman dug in his heels and handed in a transfer request. He eventually got his move, joining Liverpool for a whopping £75 million. Of course, that fee seemed steep to some at the time, but it has proved to be a wise investment by Liverpool. From Southampton's perspective, they lost their defensive linchpin, but it didn't really impact them too much on the pitch, since they went from being rubbish with Van Dijk to equally rubbish without him, only narrowly avoiding relegation that season. It took Southampton 18 months to reinvest the Van Dijk windfall, doing so with the arrivals of Guido Carrillo, Stuart Armstrong, Mohamed Elyounoussi, Angus Gunn and Yannick Vestergaard, and the club climbed from 17th to 16th the season after Van Dijk's departure. Romelu Lukaku. In case you hadn't already guessed the player with two £50 million plus Premier League sales, here is your confirmation that it is Romelu Lukaku. During his 2 seasons with Manchester United, Lukaku scored 42 goals in 96 games, a perfectly reasonable tally, but his style didn't seem to align with the way in which Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wanted his team to play. As such, he was sold to Inter Milan for £74 million, just £1 million less than the Red Devils paid for him, with that cash being used to strengthen in defensive areas through the arrival of Harry Maguire and Aaron Wan-Bissaka. The transfer did leave United looking a little light up top, and they may have struggled for goals this season were it not for the emergence of Mason Greenwood. Whilst Lukaku has done very well in Milan, with 31 goals in his debut campaign, Manchester United have looked a more vibrant attacking force this season than last, and they've scored more goals without him than they did with him, and they have climbed from 6th to 3rd place in the Premier League table. It's quite possible that this one worked out for everyone: Manchester United, Inter Milan, and indeed Lukaku himself. Riyad Mahrez. Riyad Mahrez was a superb signing by, and an excellent servant to, Leicester City. Of that there can be no doubt. A key man in their title win, and their most gifted individual, his departure for Manchester City in 2018 no doubt came as a blow. However, £60 million will have eased that blow, especially for someone who was already 27 years old, and that the Foxes paid peanuts to sign in the first place. The closest Leicester came for a like-to-like replacement for Mahrez in terms of flair and creativity was the £22.5 million signing of James Maddison. That has turned out to be an excellent piece of business, and Leicester now value Maddison higher than they did Mahrez, with The Athletic reporting that they would only entertain offers in excess of £100 million for the Englishman amidst interest from Manchester United. Mahrez is no doubt a magician and a brilliant footballer, but his sale helped fund some shrewd additions by the Foxes, and they're a better team now than they were when he left. Eden Hazard. Chelsea fans could be forgiven for thinking their world was beginning to implode when Eden Hazard left the club to join Real Madrid last summer. For 7 seasons, Hazard lit up the bridge as one of the best players in the Premier League and one of the best players in Europe, and he left Chelsea with a timely reminder of what they were losing with a virtuoso performance in his final game as the Blues thrashed Arsenal in the Europa League final. However, the post-Hazard era no longer seems quite so frightening at Stamford Bridge, as the Blues only dropped from 3rd to 4th place this season. Meanwhile, Hazard had a pretty turgid debut campaign in Spain. What's more, with the £89 million potentially rising to £130 million that Chelsea received for Hazard, they reinvested £58 million in Christian Pulisic, who had a great first season at the Bridge, still aged only 21. Harry Maguire. One of only 5 £50 million plus transfers between Premier League clubs, and as such, one of 5 players to feature in both this weekend and last weekend's videos, Harry Maguire, joined Manchester United for £18 million from Leicester City last summer. Whilst the Foxes replaced Riyad Mahrez intelligently, they didn't even need to look elsewhere to replace Harry Maguire, instead handing an opportunity to Çağlar Söyüncü, who had struggled for game time in his debut campaign at the King Power Stadium. Leicester have been an improved outfit this season compared to last, as well as having been a stronger defensive unit, conceding 7 fewer goals. Whilst Maguire has done a very good job in shoring up Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's back line, Leicester pocketed £80 million without any tangible negative implications for their team. Söyüncü was so impressive this season, in fact, that he is now being linked with a move to Barcelona himself. Felipe Coutinho. Felipe Coutinho is a brilliant footballer, of course, but the fee Barcelona paid for him did always seem a tad excessive. £105 million up front and a potential £142 million subject to add-ons is just a ludicrous amount of money, and Liverpool must have been laughing all the way to the bank given Coutinho was pushing for the move at the time and they probably had little option but to sell him in all truth. With the money they made from Coutinho, Liverpool were able to sign Virgil Van Dijk and receive a hefty amount of change, and the club made 3 significant further additions the following summer. Van Dijk and Alisson were the key ones, and they've transformed Liverpool into a seriously efficient winning machine, far better than the side that Philippe Coutinho left behind in January 2018. The Brazilian, meanwhile, had a mixed 18 months in Catalonia before spending this season on loan at Bayern Munich, and if Liverpool wanted to bring him back to Anfield, one suspects, they could do so for a lot less than they paid for him. Fernando Torres. Liverpool have the worst, but also 2 of the best £50 million plus sales in the history of the Premier League as far as I'm concerned, and arguably their finest sale at any price point was letting go of Fernando Torres in January 2011. Following 3.5 seasons at Liverpool, where he was electric at times, Torres had shown a few signs of decline in his last 6 months at Anfield. Chelsea seemingly didn't think so, completing their long-standing interest in the Spaniard with a then British record £15 million fee. With that cash, Liverpool went out and signed Andy Carroll and Luis Suarez, one genius and one absolute donkey. Okay, that's a bit harsh. One very good signing and one not so good one, shall we say. Suarez went on to become even better than Torres, meanwhile the Spaniard scored just 1 goal in 18 games in his first half season at Stamford Bridge. He went on to play a key role in a couple of major successes, but his departure didn't weaken Liverpool, and they received a fantastic fee for his services. Oscar. As much as you can argue about all of the transfers in this video, they were all deals that made a certain amount of sense for both clubs at the time. Only a team from the Chinese Super League, one suspects, would have been willing to pay a reported £16 million for Brazilian midfielder Oscar back in December 2016. Oscar was a very good servant to Chelsea, but he had only made 9 Premier League appearances for the team that season, failing to score a single goal and registering only 1 assist. The £60 million fee, therefore, was a bit of a gift for the Blues, who went on to win the Premier League title that season without the Brazilian, although they did follow that up with one of the most abysmal transfer windows of any team on record. Nonetheless, it's worth noting that Chelsea sold Oscar for twice the price that they had signed N'Golo Kante for just 5 months earlier. His sale didn't damage them in almost any respect, they won the Premier League title that season without him, and they pocketed a cool £60 million. That makes Oscar the best £50 million plus sale we've seen in the Premier League as far as I'm concerned. So that's it for today's video. Thank you as ever for watching. Please feel free to give us a like if you enjoyed the video, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and make sure that you are subscribed to HITC Sevens and have notifications turned on. And if you'd like to follow me on Twitter or Instagram, or indeed both, the username is simply @HITC Sevens.